All right, so recording has been started. Now, all right, let me share my screen. So, like today's chapter, we will understand Amazon VPC service. Okay, and in the Amazon VPC, we are going to cover all the networking aspects of our this training. Okay, but before that, what we are going to understand is what actually the IP address is. Okay, how IP addresses have been defined, what actually being networking means to us, okay, even before starting the VPC, because VPC is nothing but a part of a networking service in AWS. So rather going ahead, deep diving into the VPC, we will first understand what are the actual networking components that we need to understand as a cloud engineer, okay? And we should have a very clear picture about those components, then only we can move ahead into the VPC, okay? So very first thing is that uh, what I will start is I will first let you know that what actually the IP addresses are being called, how they are defined, how many types of IP addresses, what are the ranges of those IP addresses. Okay, so kind of those things, and then we will go ahead. So just give me a moment. Let me. All right. So very first thing that we are going to cover is what is actually the IP address? Okay, I hope everybody is able to see my screen, right? Everybody is able to
Yes,
see. All right. So if you talk about an IP address, okay, so this is an IP address, okay, which has been typically represented by this symbol. Don't worry about that, okay. But what actually this IP address means to, okay? So this IP address is basically any IP address in this world. There are two categories of IP address. One categories of IP address is the public IP address, okay, public IP addresses. And another category that we have is private IP addresses. But end of the day, whether it's public or private, it has some characteristic that we need to understand. Okay. So basically, whoever defined the IP address, there's an authority called that IANA, okay, which is nothing but Internet Assigned Network Authority. Internet Assigned Network Authority. This is basically the organization or the community which have defined the multiple backgrounds of the IP address. Okay, so how the IP address has to be defined on a particular network, the INA has given the definition on that. Now, what is the IP address? Actually, it is, let me write it here. It is a 32 bits uh, address. Okay, 32 bits address defined, used to define a machine or a server or any device over the network. Now, over the network, if you are into your private network, means if you are into the LAN, local area network, that IP address is called as private IP address. if that IP address is used to define a machine, is used means if that IP address is assigned to a machine which is exposed over the internet. Okay. Suppose your laptop or your computer, if not connected to the internet, then it would have only private IP address. If your laptop or your computer is connected to the internet, then you will get one public IP address. What is that address? We will understand later on. But there are two categories of IP address. And what is the mean by IP address is it is just used to define like your name. Okay. Like how you are defined. Maybe in your home you would be having given some name like kind of we people like usually get Sonu, Monu like this, right? But you have an official name which is publicly exposed, right? If I'm calling you, then I'm giving you have a proper name like Rajesh, Suresh, or any name, okay? But that is publicly exposed means everybody knows you from that name. But maybe your mama is calling you as a Monu, then that is a private name, right? You are using in your home, but that is not being used outside of that outside of your home, right? So that is the private name. In the similar way, the servers have two types of IP addresses. One is private IP address and public IP address. What is the IP address? IP address is nothing but the 32 bits of address used to define a particular machine over the network. Now, if that network is a local network, means only restricted to your home, that means, or we call it specifically that network as a local area network. Okay. So, if that machine has been defined in that particular network, it will get a private IP address. If that machine has been exposed to the internet, means the network is the home area network is connected to the internet, then that machine will get a public IP address. Okay. This is the definition of IP address. Now, if can anybody tell me if you are aware of LAN and WAN, local area network, and the wide area network? Anybody has any information?
Sir, I think local area network is a private network which we basically use in like our home or any infrastructure, but
Mm-hmm.
basically used to connect with internet. I think.
Okay. And WAN is something which is called as wide area network, okay, and which is connected to your internet. Local area network is just within your home. It is not connected to the internet, okay. So, like suppose I'm taking some example, okay, but we already got the definition, right? I'm not deep diving into that, okay. Another part of this particular IP address definitions are like we have two categories of IP address. One is called as first category is public and private. Okay. Another category is types of IP address. So we have two types of IP address. One is IPv6 and IPv4. Okay. So IPv6 is a newer version of IP addresses. IPv4 is an older version of IP addresses. So how like when we already have IPv4, then why we came to the IPv6? It's a version, okay? So actually, what happens is that we have a limitation of everything, like mobile numbers. Earlier we used to get something starting from 98, right? 91. Now we are seeing the numbers which are starting from any random range as well, right? Because we don't have the coverage of that range, right? In the similar way, the public IP address are the unique one. Okay, why IPv6 was involved? Because when I will come to the ranges, I will define you how the ranges have been defined. But before that, the public IP ranges where we use the public IP address over the system. Basically, that public IP addresses are the unique address. Means suppose let's say a IP address ABC. Okay, IP address ABC, it's been taken by you on your machine, then I cannot take it for my machine. So that is a unique IP address. But in the private IP address, let's say ABC private IP address you have taken for your machine, I can also use it. So there's no problem in that because your home network is different, my home network is different. Okay. Now, when you talk about public IP address, then uniqueness of those IP addresses makes a very limited ranges. Okay, because that's the unique. I can only use it. Then the problem comes like the range of those particular ranges of public and private. the public IP address ranges are very limited, then what happened is that they have invented the new series of IP addresses, which is nothing but the 128.6 IPv6 IP address, which is nothing but a 128 bit of IP address. Okay, 128 bit. Okay, bits. Okay. Now, if you talk about like IPv4, then basically what we are seeing is, as I said, that it's a 120, it's a 32 bits of IP address. Okay. So you have usually seen those IP addresses like, right now I'm just talking about some common terminologies only. Yeah, you would be seeing like this kind of IP address anytime, right? So this is a 32 bits means what is happening is that uh, it has been divided into 4 bits like this. Okay. And like this. Okay. So if you convert this 192 and 168 in the decimal, you can convert it, you will get it. Okay. Now, if you want to try me to convert it, then what we can do is we will be doing like this of 168, and then that conversion I will let you know later on. But what you got is like there are the 8 bits, 4 bits, 4 bits, 4 bits, 4 bits. Okay. So like that's how many bits we have actually in the IP address. 32 bits in total. Okay. Or sometimes we call it as a 4 octets. 4 octets. Or rather, writing like this, I can define like this so that you should not have a problem to understand. I'm not talking about right now any number, just I'm talking about there would be 8 numbers, 4 numbers in each block. Okay. All right. So there would be basically 4 blocks of 4 bits in each blocks. Okay. And in that way, it becomes 32 bits. 32 bits, we call it as a 4 octets. Okay. One octet is equals to 1 byte. Okay. Or basically, we call it as a 8 bits. 8 bits. So these are 8 bits, 8, 8, 8, 8. Okay. Sorry, these are not for 8, 8. Okay. So like this, how many bits become 32 bits? Okay. So this is how our typical IP address has been defined. Okay. This is the property of the IP address. Now, if you talk about a machine, let's say server or anything, okay, let's say we use EC2 instance, right? So EC2 instance is nothing but a machine, whether a physical or private, it's a machine at the end of the day. Now, in this machine, basically, when you talk about the addresses for that particular machine, so what happens is that we basically get 2 types of address. One is a logical address, another one is a physical address. All right. Logical address is the one which basically nothing but your IP address. Okay. So when you assign the IP address to your machine for the identification purpose over the network, basically that IP address is called as a logical address of the machine. Now, can anybody tell me that what is the physical address of a machine? Any machine in the world? Anybody has
So,
understanding or can think of what could be the physical address I am going to talk about?
sir, it is MAC address.
MAC address. Okay. So if you see a MAC address, when you buy any device, whether your laptop or anything, at the backend side you will see serial number and also you will see the MAC address. Okay. Or also if you see about the NIC cards, right? Let's say your network interface card. When you talk about network interface card of your machine, it always comes with the MAC addresses. Okay. So MAC address is the one which has been assigned to a physical object. Okay. Such that at the time of let's say suppose if I want to connect to a network from your computer to another computer, so how that particular NIC card will be identified over the network. So because of MAC address, okay. So this is how two types of two types of addresses have been assigned to a machine. Either it could be a logical address or either it could be a physical address, but two types of address would be there for every physical or virtual device. Okay. Now let's go ahead. Now I will talk about that. When I say that in this particular IP address or any IP address, okay, what could be the maximum range of particular octet? So if you talk about here, if you see any IP address 192.168, let's say I'm using this IP address, okay, 192.168. So any bit, okay, any bit can move from 0 to 255. You will not see any IP address which will be having more than it, okay. You would be seeing somewhere. I will talk about how these have been observed. This is the later part, but for now understanding, if you think of 190 to 168, and you would be seeing somewhere 187, 188, but what you will see is actually it's moving from 0 to any bit. I'm not talking about only 190, 168. Any bit is moving from 0 to 255. 0 to 255. That's the one thing. Okay. So if you talk about, let's say this IP address 192.168.256.10. So if somebody asks you that, is it a valid IP address? What you would say? If I ask you, is it a valid IP address? This is the IP address, but is it a valid IP address?
It's not a valid IP.
Sorry,
It's not a valid
Sir,
IP.
it's not a valid IP address because this bit, if you talk about the third bit, this has been moved ahead of 255. Okay, so we can only move the bit from 0 to 255. That's the one thing. Now it's a valid IP address. Okay, this is in which range or what, that we will discuss. That's not a part of theory right now. But I'm just making sure that you understand the typology of IP addresses. Okay. So these are some common things related to the IP address. These are the 32-bit. We will usually prefer right now to learn about IPv4. IPv6 is of a later part. Okay. In the IPv4 IP address, we have 32 bits. Okay. One byte is basically equivalent to 8 bits. Okay. Or we call it as a one octet. Okay. Equal to 8 bits. This is the anybody can use any term. I don't bother about it. Okay. But at the end of the day, it's a 32 bits IP address. Now, second thing is that your IP address basically any bit can move from 0 to 255. Then your first thing is to identify whether it's a valid IP address or not whenever you see any IP address. Okay. Now, third thing comes that who defines the IP address? The IANA authority defines the definitions of the IP addresses. Okay. Fourth thing is that types of IP address. Then we have two types of IP addresses. One is a public IP address, another one is a private IP address. Fifth thing is that further definition of the what is actually the IP address. IP address is nothing but your address or identification number of any machine or device over the network. Now that network can be connected to the internet, or that network can be local network. If that is a local network, the machine would have a private IP address. If that machine is connected to the internet, that would have a public IP address. Like my machine, like my Windows, like my laptop. My laptop having two IP addresses. One is a private one to communicate within my another devices within my network. Okay. But when anything is being like I have connected with a Zoom meeting. Okay. My data has been transferred over to the internet. What I'm talking about, the data has been transferred over to the internet and then coming to you by the internet to you, right? So that means my machine would also having the public IP address. So how would I see that? Public, my public IP address or my public IP address. Yeah, you can see here, you can go. This website basically will identify your public IP address and will let you know. Okay. So it's detecting here and it will let you know what is your public IP address of your machine. So this is how you can, it will take some time. Okay, we'll let you know. No, not an issue. Now, second things comes here that what actually the ranges are, how we can talk about this is public, this is private IP address. Okay. So for that purpose, what I can do is you can Google it. Okay. So basically, or let's say, if I now go ahead. So basically, we have some ranges which IANA has defined. Okay, what IANA is saying about that? Just give me a moment. So IANA, what IANA says that they basically has defined five kinds of classes of the IP address. Okay, so what they say is we have a class A IP address. Okay, so this topic is now going over to the classes of IP address. Classes of IP address. When you understand the classes of IP address, then only you will understand the types of the IP address, means public, how public and private has been defined. Okay. So IANA says that class A basically will start from 0 to 127. Means if the first bit of the IP address, you see 192 somewhere, you see 172, 10 somewhere. Okay. This says that if your first bit goes from 0 to 127, okay, if any number between them, that particular IP address will called as a class A IP address. Now, this is that if your bit moves from 128 to 191, okay, 128 to 191. If your first bit moves from here to this, basically this IP address is called as class B IP address. Similarly, when you talk about class C, so class C will go from 192 to 223. Okay. So this is basically class C IP address. Okay. Now we have a class D IP address. Class D. Class D is basically moving from 224 to 239. Okay. And then we have a class E. There are five classes. We have class E. 242 to 255. Okay. Now, in that range, this is that public plus private both. Okay. Both the IP addresses are being defined in this range. That's what IANA says. We have not defined what is public, what is private, but what they are saying that if you see any IP address, your first look would be to see this is of which class. Let's say if I'm writing an IP address which starts from, let's say I'm writing this piece of IP address, let's say 192, or let's say I'm starting from this. Okay. Now, can anybody tell me this is a which class of IP address by seeing the definition which I have written?
It is a class A IP.
It's a class A IP, right? Now, if I'm asking me, let's say, if I asking you, let's say, 187.10.5.3. Now, this is of which class?
Class B.
It's a class B. So this is how you are able to identify. This would be your first look. Okay. Now, if I talk about, let's say, if I talk about 270 to 249.50 dot. Now this is of which class?
It is a class E IP.
Class EIP. Okay. But is it a valid IP?
Valid, not valid.
It's not a valid IP. Okay. So basically you have to observe two things. If you see any IP address, you have to define it is of which class. Second thing, you have to define is it a valid IP address or not. Okay. Now, when you talk, when they have given the definition of the classes of the IP address, if you see the first bit, then you can define this is a which class IP address. Okay. Another thing, what this is that whenever you want to use the IP address, where all these IP address can be used, that also INA has defined. So what they are saying that for the class A IP address, okay, you can use it on the production system or any server or any machine. I'm just writing here the machine or server, okay. Similarly, for class B, machine or server or any device, okay? I'm not just talking about the server itself. It can be a computer, internet of things, your camera or anything, whatever device, which is electronic device, which has some programming into it. So it will get a this particular class of IP address. Okay. Now, when you talk about class C, this is also you can use production system or yeah, machine, just machine or server, anything. Okay. But when you talk about class E IP address, class D and class E, this is not basically used into our machines. This is not, we cannot use it for our machines. Okay. This has been defined for the multicasting and broadcasting. Okay. And then we have class E, which is for
and development.
research and development. Okay. Now, if anybody has any doubt which IP address we will use, what, don't worry about that. Just right now, whatever I'm giving you, just think of it. Okay. So INA simply says that we have defined 5 classes. In that 5 classes, they have defined they have defined the range of the classes. Okay, which range falls into which class. Second thing, what they have defined is which range you can use for your system. Right now, they never say that. Right now, they did not say that which is the public IP address range or which is the private IP address range. They have only defined the range. Yeah, both the public and plus private, both ranges are there. Okay, both public and private. This is all the bunch of the IP address what they have defined. So right now, we have not categorized what is the public and what is the private. Now, if you understood this part, another part comes from here. What is the public range into it and what is the private range into it? Okay. So basically, what they are saying that in this classes, we have private range. Okay. In this classes, we have private range. What you can do is usually you can go to the Google or Chat GPT, anyone. Okay. You can ask here private IP ranges. So in all the classes, what is the private IP ranges? That basically will get it here. So very first range is 10.002 to 10.255 means what they are saying that if you go from in this class A basically, in the class A, if you talk about the private IP range, then what would be that? From this to this means from this IP address to this IP address 10 series means basically in this class A, if IP address is starting from a 10, okay, then that IP address will be called as a private IP address. Other than this particular range, if you see any class A IP address, that will be called as a public IP address. This is a simple definition, okay. Now, in the similar way, if you talk about the class B, so basically class B IP address is this one. So this is the private range of a class B, okay. So from this class B IP address, if somebody is starting from 170.16, means what they have fixed is, if any IP address, if you see, starts from 172.16, okay, even if you go beyond 172.17, then that IP address will become a public IP address. But if somebody is using from 172.16 and then going further to 172.13.255.255, because what I said is every bit can move from 0 to 255, okay? So if you see first range, the first IP address in the private range is 10.0.0.0. Second IP address will be 10.0.0.0.1, 10.0.0.2, and then similarly it will every bit will move to last to the 255. So what they are saying that this particular range you can use for private means you can assign into your network, into your home. Okay. Apart from that, all the IP addresses are unique and those IP addresses are the public IP address. And the similarly, in the class B, we have this private range. If you talk about the class C, then you can see here what it could be. Then basically that ranges 192.168.0.0 to 192.168.255.25. Okay. So this is the particularly private IP ranges. Now we don't have any class D and class E private IP ranges. Anybody can tell me why it is like that?
Because sir, we don't use these IPs.
Because these are being used, I written here, these are being used for research and development. So everybody is not doing research and development into their home, right? This is the government official. This is the country specific, right? Research and development is a part of a country, right? Or the whole world. Like they would have a unique IP addresses for them, right? So it will not fall into the private range. So what INA is saying that you have these three ranges from class A, this particular range, 10 series range, class B 172.16 range, class C 192.16 range. If you see any IP address beyond that would be the public IP address. Okay. Now I have few questions from you. Let's say suppose if I ask you 192, 170.13 dot or something like this. Will what is this IP address? Is it a private or public?
Public eye.
Public IP address. Okay. Suppose I'm writing this particular IP address 172.20.0.15, something like that. This is a public or private?
Private IP.
This is private. And how many people are saying private? And how many people are saying public?
Private.
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 So basically, if you see here, it's falling into this range, right? 170 to 16, it will go till 170 to 31. If that bit has been moved beyond 31, if that bit has been moved from, let's say, 32, now it becomes a public because it's not coming into this range, right? So this is how we basically call it private or public IP addresses. Okay. And everybody has clear understanding about this or have any questions on it?
Sir, clear.
All clear, right? Okay. Now, basically,
Yeah, one question, Kapil sir. If you see the last octet, right? For example, this private ranges. Second one, if you can 170 to 31 to 55 to 55.
mhm.
So I see couple of basically in my environment, right? It is exceeding 256, 257 until we have actually.
Sorry. Please come again. You are saying
No,
to
no, I mean to say the last octet. If you see the
uh,
private range, second range you can take.
uh,
So the 172, 31, 255,
mhm.
250. Instead of that, our IP addresses, right? We have a 256, 257 till that one also actually.
No, what is your question? Do you have those IP address
No,
or
yes, is it a valid IP address or what is it
no?
actually?
That won't
So
be a
it,
valid
it
IP address because any
hmm,
bit will move till 255 only. It won't move beyond
okay,
in any case.
okay. Fine, sir.
Got it? So at the last bit, movement will be from 0 to 255. That's what I already said. Okay. It will not go beyond 255. That's the final point. Okay. So if you are seeing somewhere, that is an invalid IP address. Even if you will not see it, if you have seen it, just let me know where it is that. It cannot
Okay,
be defined neither as a private or neither as a public. It will not work because that range is not even a valid IP range. Okay.
okay. Got it.
Sometime you would have seen this kind of IP address. If you know about it, just let me know what if you have seen about this particular IP address. Have you seen this IP address anytime somewhere?
Yeah, it is basically we call local host IP
Private
address, you can say.
loopback ID. Loopback ID, sir.
Okay, so this is the which range? If you see here, this is falling into the class A, right?
Yeah.
Now again falling into the class A. This is particularly IP address is specific to a loopback IP address. Okay. which is like of a when you have your machine. So your machine basically, let's say suppose you want to check you want to ping your local gateway, means you want to ping your NIC card whether it's working or not. Okay. Sometimes we doubt ourselves, right? Because if something is not working, then we have to check ourselves whether I am correctly understanding or not, or I am correct or not. In the similar way, if your machine have some problem, if your the NIC card where we assign the IP address, which is nothing but an Ethernet card, where you assign the IP address on your machine, so that hardware is particularly that hardware is fine or not. So checking that one, we can use this particular IP address, which is nothing but checking your local NIC card to see that whether it's perfectly working or not. Okay. So this is how the IP addresses have been defined. Okay. Now let me talk about some another thing. Just give me a moment. Now, when you see this IP addresses, another part comes about the subnets. Okay. So let me go beyond it. Now, okay, it will not move. Let me go ahead into the another page. Now another part comes into the IP addresses, which is nothing but called as a subnets. Okay. So let me take the A for itself. That's fine. Okay. So now subnet is nothing but now if you have moved the IP, if you have understood the IP address, then second part comes in the networking subnet. You will be hearing lots of time the subnet. Okay. So subnet is basically something like this is also 30-bit, 32-bit address. Okay. But this particular 32-bit address is used to define the host and the network. Means what I want to say is this particular IP address or this particular 32 bits of address basically define the more properties of the IP addresses. Okay. So how they define? Basically, let me talk about this. This is 32 bits IP address, and this basically defines the host and the network bits. Okay. Another thing. Third thing is that how basically this particular subnet also have the classes. Okay. I'm writing here classes of the subnets. Classes of the subnets. Now, what are these classes? Basically, when you would have seen these kind of things, right? So this is basically class A subnet. Class A subnet. 255.255.0.0. This is basically class B subnet. Means if you see a class A IP address, what we have already been defined here, if you see this class A IP address, you can define class A subnet associated with this. Okay. We also have the class C and class D. Class C 255.0. This is basically class C subnet. Okay. Class C subnet. And then we have a class D subnet. Okay. So this basically standard format of the subnets. How they are starting is from 255. This is also 32-bit address, kind of a IP address we have. Okay. So, but this is more of a defining the property of the IP address, by which host, by which network that particular IP address is coming from. How many networks, we can create from, or which particular network part it is coming from. That we will talk about later on. You will understand definitely. But right now, what you understand is, let's say suppose you are been defined by your name. Okay. But if I talk about what is your family group, okay, like suppose somebody call it as a Ambani's, somebody call it as a like Agrawal's, right? So these are the family groups, right? Where like we have some kind of a property associated with that particular person, right? Don't you, if somebody if you call your name, let's say Amit Kumar, right? So something comes from your name, that which background you are coming from, what is your family background. So that particular information comes from you. But in case of IP addresses, subnet is something which defines a family of the, by which family of that particular IP address is, how many networks, from which particular network part that particular IP address is coming from. Okay, so that thing basically this defines. Now, if you talk about, let's say suppose this 255.0.0, what I want to say is, let's say suppose class A subnet. Okay, so when I talk about class A subnet 255.0.0.0, now what actually, if I want to convert this into the decimal format, then basically in the binaries we have 0 and 1 1. So what will happen is 1 1 1 1, okay, and then 1 1 1 1. Basically what I'm doing is 164. Let me write it down here. What you will write it here? 0 0. First, let me write like this: 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0. Okay, and then again 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0. It's a 32-bit address. Okay, I'm writing 255 as a 111, means all the bits are in on state. Okay, so how this 255 is calculated? Because 164 plus, and then when you go to the next step, 128, 164, 164, and then what next come? 128, and then 64, 32, and then 8, 4, 2. This is how it has been defined. Okay, so if you plus this one, let me do the calculation. 164 plus 128. Sorry, it's starting from 128.
156. No, the first.
Sorry,
Sorry, the first one is 156 or 164.
let me see one moment. How much this has been defined. 128. Sorry, it's starting from 128. 128, 64. Okay, 128, 64, and then 32, and then your 8, 4, and then 2, 8, 4, 2, 1, 64. Are you missing anything? 128, and then 64, and then 32. And what we can do is, just give me a moment. Is it coming to 55, right? 128, 64, 32, 16. Okay, here's the 16 I forgot. 16, and then 8, 4, 2, 1. Okay, you do the 16 as well.
2 plus 1.
Yeah, 8, 4, 2, 1. Okay. So now if you see here, this particular ones, okay, when you have a 255, how this has been calculated? This is how, when we do the conversion, okay, then when you do the conversion, basically you have to add up these numbers starting from 128, 128, 64, 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, 1, and then this particular 255 will come up. In the similar way, if you see the class B, so this particular, but what I want to say here is that here are basically host bit and network bit. So the number of ones here are called as host bit. Okay, and how many are these here? Basically, these are 8 here. Okay, and network bits How many number of network bits are there? Means number of zeros. Number of zeros are called as network bits, and these are nothing but the 24. Okay. So basically, what we want to understand from is if somebody asks you if you have this particular subnet over an IP address, okay. If you let's say if you see an IP address and over that particular subnet has been defined that this particular I will tell you how actually this looks like. But let's say if somebody asks you that, hey, this is the particular IP address, let's say ABC, and then this particular IP address having this subnet, then what you will understand from that subnet is what you observe from that subnet is of that particular IP address. Basically, what they want to say is how many addresses are there in that particular subnet. Okay, how many other addresses would be there of the IP address. Okay, so basically, what you do is number of valid IP address in this particular subnet. Number of just wait for 2 minutes. I will define you everything. Number of valid IP address. Okay. So what it could be 2 to the power 2 to the power if you number of hosts. Okay, so let's say 2 to the power 8 here. So whatever will come up will be a valid IP address. Okay, sorry, number of zeros here, number of 24. So 2 to the power 24, 2 to the power n, which is nothing but 2 to the power number of zeros. Whatever the number will come will be a valid IP address. Okay, will be a IP address. Sorry, not a valid but IP address. Okay. And if somebody asks you in this particular subnet, what is the number of valid IP address? Valid IP address means which can be used in the network. So in every network, we have a two IP addresses, which is nothing but the for broadcast purpose and multicast. Okay, broadcast, and we have another part where we can use the multicast. For this particular IP addresses, we basically we block this particular IP addresses in every network range, and the valid IP address will become 2 to the power 24 minus 2. Okay, valid IPs in every network. Okay, now if you talk about in this particular subnet, how many another network could be? How we can break this particular subnet? So basically, it can be done from a 2 to the power number of IPs, and we can have number of subnets. We basically call it as subnets. Number of subnets. So 2 to the power h, 2 to the power h, or you can say 2 to the power 8. Okay, number of subnet. Subnet is nothing but the division of a particular network into the small part of the networks. Okay, number of subnets means how this network can be further divided into the small parts. So let's say suppose now take an example. Suppose if I'm writing this particular IP address 10.0.0.0, and I'm saying that the subnet mask, we usually call it as a subnet mask. So let's say I'm writing that 255.0.0.0. So now what you're observing from this subnet mask, nothing but what you're observing is for this particular IP address, what you want to say is that this is coming from a range which is nothing but where you will get 2 to the power 24 minus 2 IP addresses. That's the first thing. Another thing, what you are understanding is what could be the another part of this subnet where you will get another range of the IP addresses. That is nothing but 2 to the power 8. Okay. So everybody is clear about this particular part. What is actually the subnet mask? Mask is nothing but the definition of or the properties of IP address, which tells you about how many another network it could be and how many IP addresses would be there, or what is the range of the IP addresses actually for that particular IP address over which the subnet mask has been defined. You got it? Or anybody has any doubts? Any confusion, doubts, or anything?
Yeah, this one, the number of subnets and the number of valid IP address,
Mhm.
the number of IP address, that have a little bit confusion actually. I did not get that. Yeah.
Actually, see, uh, subnet is nothing but if you see about how you can break a particular network. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Yeah.
say suppose tomorrow, in my home I have 24 computers. Let's take an example. I have 24 computers.
Correct.
So how many you want to assign one IP address to your computer? Let's suppose that you want to have a one IP address over every computer.
True.
So how many IP addresses will you need for your system?
Yeah, based on how many I have, basically, if I have eight, I need eight IP address. Or
You will need it,
then, yeah,
right?
yeah, correct.
Okay. Now, for getting those eight IP address, because you want to use a private IP address because you are distributing your network in your home, right? You have eight computers in your home. Now, how will you define that which particular subnet? Then how will you define the subnet for this?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, this
Okay.
topic is not finished. Right now, we will go beyond it. Then you will particularly understand how subnet will be defined. But for now, I'm just giving the context of this particular topic because you are not getting where you want to go, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
now, this particular the question which I ask you that you need eight computers. Now you need eight IP address. So very first thing will hit you on your mind that which particular class I will use for that particular IP addresses. Whether I am going to because you want to use a private IP address, whether you want to go with the class A, class B, class C. You have three classes
Okay.
defining your computer, right? Now in this
Mm-hmm.
classes, you have to define which particular subnet I will take. If you don't have a knowledge of the subnet, how you will define the subnet for your particular IP address range,
Yes,
right?
yes, I got it. Got it now.
Now, when we move ahead on this topic, you will definitely understand what I want to say. But for now, what I'm saying that when we have a three classes, A, B, C, D, we have three classes where we have a private IP ranges. For those classes, we have a subnet definition as well. And what is that subnet definition? For the class A, we have a subnet 1255.0.0. In the similarly, if you go to class B, then for the class B, the subnet is called as 255.255.0.0. This is for class B IP address. When you see a class B range, you will have to associate this class B subnet to class B IP address to this subnet 255.255.0 for class C. Okay. Now this subnet is basically telling you that hey, the network which you have designed, the network which you have designed you would have this many particular IP addresses available with you, and you would have further division of this network into this particular small parts, which is nothing but the subnet. Now you got it?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Anybody has any doubts till now before moving ahead? What is the subnet mask? So subnet mask is different, subnet is different. Subnet mask is a denotation of how you will denote a subnet. That is something, okay? And subnet is something, let's say, suppose if I says that, just give me example, then I'll ask you a question, then I'll see that whether you got it or not, okay? So now suppose if I says that, hey, I'm designing a network, I'm designing a network. Now, which is of this, which class? Which class IP address is this? Can anybody,
Class.
sorry, class C, right?
Yes, sir.
Class C. And for the class C, the INA says that for the class C, the subnet mask is this. Now you are designing this network. You are designing this network for your home. You are designing this network. But if you don't have the understanding how many IP addresses you will get from this network, then how you will calculate? Now tell me how you will calculate how many IP addresses would be into this particular network. Hmm? How many IP addresses would be in this particular network? How would you calculate? This is the whole of a network. Okay. Now, how would you calculate is the similar way which I have already done here. Okay. So when you see here, we already have how many ones will come here? So if you see here, if you go to the this one where you have 0, okay? So how many ones will come here? Can anybody give me the idea? One, 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 one. You will write like this, right? Yes or no?
So these will be 24.
How you will write this one? The simpler way, when you convert this one to the binary, this is what it will come, right? 255 is equivalent to what? That's what I already said. 122 plus 64 plus 13 plus 16 plus 84321. This is equivalent to 255. This is also equivalent to 255. The third block is also equivalent to 255. 0 is nothing but the 0 of zeros of 8, right? Am I right or wrong? How many host bit will be here? Number of ones. Number of ones is nothing but the host bit.
24 hosts.
24.
24, right? Number of zeros. Number of zeros will be your number of
8, 8,
networks. How many are there?
8.
8.
8.
Zeros. 8. Now, if I'm saying that this particular this whole of a two things, IP address and subnet, this is defining a network. Now, if I say that how many further division I can do in this network, that is nothing but called as subnets. How you define it? 2 to the power 8. Okay. And if I say that in those whole network, in those whole further divisions of the network, how many systems you will get, how many IP addresses you will get? How many will come? 24. Yes or no?
Okay.
So now you got it. What is the subnet mask? Subnet mask just tell you that how big a network or how small network you would be in that particular class. You got it?
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
Now you got it right. How we are calculating the subnet mask? How actually subnet mask is telling you just two things only. How much further division or how many subnets. If I want to divide this network, let's say suppose I have 8 computers for one room, I have 8 computers for another room, I have 8 computers for third room. So you are dividing your rooms, right? In the similar way, you are dividing your network. You want to say that one particular room will be have this particular range of IP addresses. Let's say tomorrow you are adding a few more computers in your one room. Then how you will take up? You have to pre-plan it, right? For the future. Let's say tomorrow you have an understanding that okay, I will take few more computers in my room as well. Then how would you add up? How will you get the IP address if you have not planned correctly? So this is how you can define the further networks into the subnet. That's what called as a subnet mask, which defines you that how many network and how many IP addresses you will get. In this particular IP addresses, you will get 2 to the power 8 subnets. Okay. Now, if you have clear understanding of this, now we next time any doubts here you can ask me. Then I'll move ahead. If you have any doubts, still you can ask me because this is a typical terminology that we will use ahead in VPC. We have not started VPC yet. I am giving more focus onto the networking part because you need to understand first what actually the networking topologies are. Then only we will move ahead. VPC I can teach you within a 1 hour. That's not a big deal. So if anybody has any problem to understand still what is the subnet mask, let me know. I'll explain you more on it. If you have got the idea, then I will move ahead. All good?
Yes, yes, yeah. It is good actually. I understood. No issues.
Okay. Now you would have listen two things here, or one thing you have generally listened in your mind or somewhere. Classless inter-domain routing. Have you ever listened about it? Anybody who would have some idea or would have some understanding on this? Classless inter-domain routing. Anytime. No?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So basically, what happens is that when you define the subnet for a particular class of IP address, let's say suppose one more thing, the denotation of this subnets, let me talk about this first. So this is the typical denotation of the subnet, but in the industry or if you go somewhere when you work on VPC or any networking part, you will see that this particular denotation. So this particular network, which is nothing but the 192.168, where I have taken this one 192.168. Where's that? Have I moved that somewhere? Okay, no issues. So this particular denotation 192.168 0.0, okay, slash. So if you see here, uh, when I say like this, uh, if I want to define this particular network, when I say these two things, IP address and its subnet mask dot zero. If I say like this, the another denotation would be something like this: 192.168 0.0 slash 24. So when you see the full bits, 255, 255, 255 means 8 bits are full, 8 bits are full, 8 bits are full, means ones are there, right? How many ones? 24 ones. That's what I will write here, slash 24. So this also denotes the same thing. If I'm writing 24 slash 24 after IP address, what I want to say that this particular IP address and the subnet mask. So what I specifically I want to say that either I can write this denotation like this, or either I can write this. In the similar way, if you see an IP address, let's say class first IP address 10.0.0, 10.0.0.0 slash 8. So that means the class A IP address have what is the subnet mask of the class A IP address? 255.0.0.0 means 8 ones only, right? So we can write class A IP address with its subnet mask like this as well. Similarly, for the class B, 172.16. Then for the class B IP address, we can write 16 because 255.255.0.0, isn't it? That's what I've written, right? For the class A subnet is 255.0.0. How many ones? 8 ones. Okay. For the class B, 16. For the class C, 24. So if the IP address range is being associated with that particular subnet mask, that particular range is called as classful IP address range. Okay, classful IP address range. Now suppose sometime you would have seen like this. First of all, have you seen like this anybody else, like kind of slash 24 slash 16 after the IP address somewhere?
Yes, and the network basically they define this is a subnet. We should use this IP address for hosts, servers, or any switches, all those things.
Okay, but now suppose tomorrow if you are seeing like this 192.168.0.0 slash 25. Now this is also network. This is also network. This is also depicts the range, and this is also depicts the how many further networks you can divide into this particular network. But this particular IP address or this particular range of the IP address is now called as classless IP address range. So one thing is that one is the classful, another thing is that classless IP address range. Now, why I will say this classless IP address, IP address range to this particular range? Because when you associate a class of a IP address to that particular class of the subnet, so that particular range will called as a classful IP address range. When you associate class of a IP address to non-class of a subnet, so this is non-class of a subnet means slash 24 slash 16 and slash 8 is particularly defined into a class. But when you are defining anything else out of this, then it becomes the classless IP addresses range. And for definition of this classless IP address range, basically when we do the routing, when we basically connect multiple network of such networks, which are the classless IP address ranges, we basically call them as a classless inter-domain routing. That's what we use into the VPC. Now you got the meaning of classless inter-domain routing. Let's say tomorrow you have three such network like this. Let's say tomorrow you are using one more. Let's say suppose you are using 10.0.0.0/12. So 12 is not in the class, right? This is not a subnet class which has been defined. This is out of the class. So /12 now is also a classless IP address range. When you connect this particular when you connect this particular network to a router in your company, then this basically terminology is called as classless inter-domain routing. That's what we do into VPC. Because tomorrow, let's say, suppose why I'm using classless, because you don't want 24. Every time you will need this much of servers. No, you could use only 4 servers. You could use only 8 servers. Then in that case, you have to further divide it. No? In that case, you have to choose a range which is suitable to you. Am I right or wrong? Are you getting
Yes,
my
yes.
point?
Yeah. If in 192.168.0.0/25, the
Huh?
last update basically it will be more than 255, correct? 256, 257 like this.
No, 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 no. So you want to see that part, I will come later on. Okay. So let's say,
Okay, okay.
okay, let me do it here. Let's say, suppose you want to say that, okay, 192.168.0.0. If I use
Yeah.
/25 here, okay. So how many host will be there? How many IP addresses will be there? So very
Yes,
simple
yes, yes.
calculation. What you can do is simply minus this 20 to 32 minus 25. Either you do
Mm-hmm.
it, either you do like this, you use the subnet, just convert it and then see. The very simple definition to calculate this one would be use 32 minus 25. How many will become? 5 and 2, 7, right? So you will
7, yeah.
to the power 7 IP addresses, 2 to the power 7. Now, how much is that? Let me calculate. 2 to the power 7. 128,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you will get 120 or just give me a moment. Yeah, 128 IP address, right? So 2
Yeah.
to the power
Okay.
7 will become 128. So you will get 128 IP address. Now, how this range would be? 192.168.0.0 to 192.168.0.0 dot 127. This
Okay.
will be your range. So where it is coming to 56 or something. Even if you go
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
even if you calculate the other way, which I already told you, okay, so you can calculate like this. If you go to this range 192.168.0.0/25. Now, how would you calculate this one? 255. Okay, let's come like this. So 25 means 25 times once. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 1,
Yeah.
0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Am I correct? Right? Now, now, how many ones are there? 20, 25 ones, right? 2 to the power
Yeah, 25 ones.
25 ones. Okay. And then 2 to the power means network bits are host are 2 to the power 25. And the network bits are basically how many zeros? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? 7, 2 to the power 7. 7 are the network bits. So basically in that network, 2 to the power 7 IP addresses you will get. And host bits are 1. Actually, I have given the wrong definition here. You will get 7 where the ones are zeros, the non like this, where the network is there. Actually, this particular zeros, when you calculate this one, This will be your IP addresses. Because the another way to calculate this one is this particular way. You use 32 minus 25. If you need more simple calculation of it, you can use one particular website which I can guide you. IP address guide range, CIDR. Okay. When you go to this particular IP address, what you can do is you can simply write it your particular CIDR range or particular subnet range. It will let you know how many IP addresses would be. Because in company I'm using this one. Okay. So you can write like this. Suppose you are using 192 or take any another one which you want to take up. 68 or 9.10.0 dot slash, let's say I want to use 22. Okay. So when you calculate this particular CIDR, it will give you the CIDR which you have been given. What would be your first IP address? What would be your last IP address? And how many would be your total host? In the similar way,
Okay.
the example what we have taken, sorry, the example we have taken is 192.168.0.0 slash, what was that? 25, right? Slash
25. Yeah.
25. Let's calculate this one. So if you calculate this one, you will be getting 128 IP addresses, which will eventually come to 192.168.0.127. Okay. So if somebody don't want to go into it, if somebody want to just need a simple calculation, so at the end of the day, what you will need is in the company or wherever you will work, what you will need is you will need to understand how many this one would be there, how many network, how many hosts will be there, means how many IP addresses you will get. So 2 to the power 7 means 128 IP addresses you will get. And one more thing, it's not 25 actually. We will calculate here, like suppose if this is the non, where these are full bits, right? Which is not full, we will take that one, and just give me a moment. Let me correct this one. Host is 7, network is 1 here, okay? So when you go for 2 to the power 1, when you go for 2 to the power 1, what it says that 2 to the power 1, how many particular range, how many the subnets will be? 2 to the power 1, sorry, not 2, 2 to the power 1. Any to the power 1 is 2 into 1 is 2, right? Right? So it will be a 2. 2 to the power 1 will be a 2. So what it want to say is that this particular network further you can divide into the two parts. Okay, this particular information comes from this particular IP address range. Okay, this particular subnet pass, subnet mask which we have defined, which is nothing but the slash 25. Now, sorry, I did the wrong calculation here. Actually, you will take a non-zero part where which is not full bits. Okay. So if you see here, this particular part, this fourth octet is not full, right? So here, the number of host is 1, number of host is 7, and number of ones, which is nothing but called as a network. So 2 to the power 1 is two networks being defined into this. Means you can further divide it into the two parts that we will see. So now you got it, how you can do the calculation of this subnet. If you see somewhere 25, 22, 28, 16, you will do the calculation, right? Or not? Anybody, any problem to do the calculation till now? All good?
Clear, sir.
See, you have to remember two things here. Forget about everything. Just remember two things. For classless and classful, I just given you for your knowledge. Because sometime you will see 24, you will get to know in your mind that, okay, this particular range is into the classless, classful range or classless range. So forget about it because nobody will ask you that part. Okay, this is for your knowledge. But what you will have to do in the company or what you have to design the network. When you design the VPC, you will need to see that how many IP address I need. Then only you will decide, right? If you don't have the knowledge, how you will decide how many IP addresses you need for your servers and how you will basically design the network part of that particular network. So for that part, you need to understand this thing. And for that part, when you define the CIDR range, which is nothing but the classless range, a classless subnet range for that particular IP address network, then you need to calculate how many IP addresses will come out from that particular range. Then only you will decide how much the size of my VPC will be, how much the size of my subnet will be, right? So for the calculation part, either you can go like this, go like this if you need. Either very simple calculation is when you see this after slash, you just minus it from 32. Whatever the number comes up, just raise this 2 to the power over to that, and then whatever the number will come will be the IP address range for that particular subnet for you. Okay. All right. So now, if that part is clear for you, then we can go ahead and see the another things on it. Just give me.
Just last query.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
slash 60 slash 8 slash 16 slash 24 are the class based
Classless
subnets.
subnet. Yeah, class subnet. Sorry. Yeah.
Class subnets. So rest of them are basically a class space, a
Classless.
CIDR.
Classless.
Okay.
Actually, these are also the subnets, but when you go to technical terminology of it, see, subnet is subnet, whether 24, 22, in the company or wherever you work, nobody will ask you whether it's a classless or classful. That's what I
Okay.
said. This is for your knowledge. But if you see, if you work somewhere and you have to design the VPC, where you have to design your network, so
Yeah.
if somebody gives you
Correct.
class 22, so you will not say, hey, this is not a classful or this is a classless. They will say, hey, what you're saying, because that person doesn't have knowledge of it, right? So that's for your understanding. But and at the end of the day, this is subnet.
Yes, basically for 24 subnet, right? Slash
Yeah.
24 subnet. I know this subnet mask, it is in my mind. For
Yeah.
22 and other 25, I need to calculate actually what do this subnet mask, it will come actually. So
Yeah.
whenever I define IP address in the system and all actually.
Yes, yes, yes. Why we
Okay.
need this? Because we need to have a small network, right? We 24 is a big network. If you go or 16, 8 is a very big where the number will be down. The if you see the tail is 8 is small number, right? For the subnet.
Yeah.
But the network
Correct.
if you design 2 to the power 8. Okay. If you see 32 minus 8 means when you do this and it will come 24 and then 2 to the power 24, you will get 2 to the power 24 IP addresses,
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah. Got it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Either I can use like this or very simple way, if you don't want to go into this, just use this particular website, which I usually prefer to do. Okay. So if you use this 10.0.0.0.8 and see how much big network it could be. So this much total host you will get means you can allocate this much servers.
IP. Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. If you want to go for a small range, you can use class B, class C. So this is how you would go. If you how we decide is the more the number here. Let's say suppose I'm using a 24. So when you see a 24, you will only get 256 IP addresses. If you use less, you will get a more range. If you will use more number here, the larger number here, you will get less IP address. Okay. And how you calculate, whether you do from the website, whether you do like this, whether you do simply like this, that is your choice. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody has any other doubts or anything which you are not getting or anything which is problematic for you? Because I can consider that the understanding this part is very typical. So if anybody has any doubt.
Yeah. Just one thing. Well, the last class I missed actually. Last class. So hope I'm in the this class.
Yeah, no worries.
It's
For that,
not so much covered, right? So that
yeah,
I'll still like I'm able to get the topics, everything, right? So should I need to complete the
see,
first
last
one?
class we just discussed the basic things. So today only we started the actual technical part. So if you have missed that, you can see the recording. You will get it. That's not an issue.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So see, I want to again conclude it. I know that few of your people would be having some confusions or anything. What you just need to remember is here, right now we are not We have not deep diving into the VPC or anything. We have not used any AWS service. Okay. Just you need to remember one thing, that whenever you see /25 /26 or /28 over an IP address, your first thing in your mind will click that, hey, this is the subnet, means this is the network which has been given. Okay. Now, if you want to calculate how many IP addresses would be, the very simple thing is that either go to that particular website, or if you don't want to go to the website, you can minus this from 32, minus from 32, whatever the number will come, raise it 2 to the power 2, you will get that much IP address. Now, how range will come? As I already said that the very first thing is that last bit will move. When last bit is reaching to the 255, then third one will move. So that's how the range will come. Okay. So I don't think this is the conclusion of this everything whatever we have been learning. Okay. So if you still have any doubts, ask me. If no, then I will move ahead to the VPC part. All right. So if you have got it, then what I can do is let me ask you a few questions from you. Let me take up a question so that I can understand that, okay, you have got this. Just let me take up a question. Okay, let's take this one particular part. Uh, just answer one by one if you got it. So let's say, suppose I want to calculate this particular subnet, which is nothing but 192.168.10.0. So tell me how much host will be there and how much network will be there in this particular subnet. Anybody else which have not answered yet for anything till now in the class? If it is wrong, that's fine. I can correct you, but if you can raise your voices here, then it will be beneficial for me so that I can understand, okay, you have got it. So how many network and how many host will be there in that? First of all, how I will define this particular /25 into the typical range, 255 range. If I want to convert it into the decimal format, how I will do that? Can anybody guide me?
32 minus 20.
No, yeah, that's fine. But still, I want to do this for you, and you that you understood. If I want to convert it into the binary, then this would be, so how I will do that? Hmm?
Yeah, 8
If
times 1, and the first and second, and the third one will be, what's it? Yeah.
right, this is how it is. Okay. Now, how many host bit are there? Network bit is one. As I said that the number of one in the non-full part. So these are the full part. Leave it about it. The last one, which is not full. So number of ones is one, and number of hosts is
25.
25. Okay. So now, sorry, not number. These are not 25. How many? Seven are there, man.
Oh,
Number of
sorry,
zeros.
sorry.
Number of zeros in non-full part. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you want to calculate how many IP address would be there into this particular subnet, then raise it 2 to the power 7. Okay. And how many network will be there? Raise it 2 to the power 1. Okay, so this is how we will be defining this particular, means 2 to the power 1, how many? 2, right?
Yeah.
So what it says that in this particular class, you can further divide into the two particular subnet range, and number of hosts which you are getting is 2 to the power 7, means 127. Out of that, 2 IP addresses will be blocked for broadcasting purpose. And then rest of the 125 IP addresses you will use into your network that you can assign to your computers. Okay. So this is how we will be calculating. Now let's go ahead. If you have got this particular things, then what you can do is we can go for the VPC part. Okay. For the VPC part, uh, very few questions if I ask you from VPC particular VPC terminologies. So let's say you are designing the network part for your home, or let's say for your company, or let's say the typical data center which is not over to the cloud. What are the things you will need? Let's say suppose if you're designing the network, you would have the very first thing is that you would have servers in your data center, you would have networking equipments, okay? You would have cabling part being done into your data center. What else? What else you can think of that is there and then you will use into that part into the networking? Anything, servers, network, cabling, and then what else you need to do to define the network in your data center? Anything you can think
I
of.
we need some networking devices like a router, switches, and
Router, switches,
some racks to
sorry,
Hub.
what else? Servers, networking you have done, cabling you have done. Actually, networking is nothing, just cabling itself. So you have servers, cabling you have done. You have a routers which routes your traffic. Router does routing the traffic from one network to another network. Let's say you have two IP ranges. How you will route the traffic? Switches is again used for just connecting multiple network together. Okay. What else? Databases. Okay.
Storage.
Storage. So these particular the devices need the IP addresses. This needs to be connected via networking way, right? So in the physical data center, we basically go and we need this particular networking devices, kind of a router, switches, and cabling. But when you talk about AWS cloud, there everything we have virtual, right? We are not going into the data center. We are doing it here. So suppose tomorrow for your server, you need to have the networking. How would you establish that networking? For that part, we will be using VPC service. Okay. So VPC is nothing but called as a virtual private cloud. Means what it says that, what's the meaning of this virtual private cloud? So very first thing it depicts that this particular network is a private network, means it's not a public network, means you are not going to use any public IP address. What you will set up is you will set up the private IP addresses range for your computers or your devices or the storage, whatever you will use in the AWS cloud. If you want to set up this one, you have to use VPC. Okay, that's the very first thing. Now, what are the components of your VPC would be? What's the component of the VPC? So basically, as we have this particular into your data center, then the VPC very first thing is that you will define the network range, which is nothing but the network CIDR. How much big network it would be, that you have to decide. Then you want to further categorize that particular network into the multiple subnets. Because let's say you would have 8 devices for a storage, you would have 8 computers or 8 EC2 instances for our application servers. You need to divide network further. You need to accommodate multiple server in different types of network. Okay. Then you will do the subnetting of it. You will define the subnet for that particular network. Then suppose you want to route one traffic to another. Let's say suppose you have multiple subnets, right? See, by default in VPC, what happens is that if you have multiple subnets and there's a part of a one VPC, let's say you have this particular subnets. This is also a subnet. Just give me a moment. So let's say this is also subnet, okay, and this is also subnet. These both the subnets are the part of a one VPC. So what AWS says that if this is a part of single VPC, then you don't need to do the route on it. Means you don't need to define the route table. It's already been routed. But let's say you have two VPCs or multiple VPCs in your AWS cloud, and then you want to, sorry, why it's not leading. And then you want to route the traffic in between those of it. Or let's say suppose tomorrow, if your network or if your device want to talk to the internet, okay, in that case you have to do the routing. So here basically we have for the routing, we have a route tables where we can define the routes. Routes basically in the simple language, like if you are seeing a signboard that this particular route goes to this particular destination, then how you will define? There you write a signboard, right? In the similar way, in the networking, we have a routers. Now here in the VPC, we have a virtual, we have everything virtual available. So here we don't have a physical routers available. Here we have a route tables where we can define where our traffic will be routed in the based of the conditions that we will see. Okay. Now another part that our network which we have defined for the computers or our servers, how our server will connect to the internet. So for that we have a device called as internet gateway. Here we have virtual internet gateway available. Another part that we have which is nothing but the net gateway. So net gateway, I will talk about this later on. You will understand, but for now you can understand it like a network address translation. That's what we call it. So these are the basic things that we have to understand in the VPC. Okay. So now what we can do is for going ahead, let me log into my particular account and then we will go ahead. Or if you want to take up a break of a 5 minute, then that's fine. Otherwise, I can go ahead. Do you want to take up a break? No?
No, sir.
So, tell me one thing, are you really getting what I'm teaching you? Or because what I feel is lots of people are in the silent mode, they are not talking, or you are feeling that, okay, you are not getting what I'm going to teach you or what I'm teaching you. Is that fine, everything? Or because I don't see the people are interacting with me when I ask anything. All good?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So your silence means you are getting, but you are not showing that you're getting it. Okay, that's fine. So now let me log into my account. So okay. So now what happened? Keep your account secure, MFA device. Escape for now. I don't want to keep my account secure. This is fine for me. Now, if you go to very first thing is that VPC also a regional service. Okay. Okay. So VPC also a regional service. If you go to the VPC here, okay, and then if you go to the regions here, you will get it that you will be able to select multiple regions out of here. Okay. If you see here, you will be able to see multiple regions. That means it's a regional service. Very first thing. Okay. Now, if you go to any region, let's say if I'm going to Mumbai tomorrow, if you go to any region where you want to create your networking, where you want to set up your networking, you will see there, you will have a default network available. That's what I talked about the last time. If you see my last time video where I talk about creating the EC2 instance, what I said you that time is EC2 is basically right now the EC2 which we have launched at that time, basically that have been using the our default network. We did not define our customized network because we did not have custom network at that time. So if you go to the VPC and to any region, you will see this is your default range. Means what they have done is they have defined this particular range as a default network. If you're not creating your own, then this will be used as a default range for your servers, okay, or the devices which you will create in your system. So if you talk about this one, this particular range, so what they are saying that now this is of which class? A, B, C, which class is that?
Class B.
Class B, right? So class B starts from 172.16, but they have started 172.30 and what 31. What they have said that if you go to the class A, class B, okay. So class B, where is that our diagram? So if you go to the class B, what we have defined for the class B, so it's go to the 172.32, right? 172.32 was for the class B where I have written. Okay, maybe somewhere it went, no issues. But 172.32. So that's what these are in the private range, isn't it? 172.30, this is the private range. So
Yes.
if this is the private range, this can be used, I can use at my home, you can use your home or wherever you want to use, we can use it because no IP address is here in the public IP address. Every IP address is here, the private IP address. So that's why if you create your account in AWS, tomorrow you will see the same range, then don't come and fight with me and says that, sir, you are using this range and how I can use this range because private means this is for your account. All the accounts in AWS are segregated, means they are different, right? So if you have also this range, then don't worry about it because the accounts level these are different because you would have your account, I would have my own account, and any other third person would have their own accounts, right? And even if you go to the regions, if you take any region, let's say suppose you are going to the North Virginia region, okay? And if you go here, you will again see the same network has been defined for this particular region, okay? So if you see here, the same range again, it has been defined for this particular region as well. So every region you will get a same particular range, which is nothing but 172 to the 31.0.0. And you can use in that particular region, this particular network for your servers or anything if you're not creating your custom one. Okay. So this is the very first thing. Now, second thing is that when we want to create the subnet, when we want to create the network, then very first thing is that you need to go and create the VPC. Okay. So let's say if I want to create in the North Virginia region, I want to create my particular network, which is the custom network. I will go to the create VPC and then I will define, it says that whether you want to create only VPC or whether you want to create anything else. So for now, what you can do is, for now, I just be stick on the VPC only, okay? And then I can say that, hey, my VPC is, let's say my VPC, okay? My VPC 01. Let's give it any name, whatever you like. Then it says that which particular range of IPs you want to go with, the private range, okay? Now it says that CADI block size must be in between 16 or 10, 28. Means it want to says that you cannot go beyond 16, you cannot go above 28. Because it's a classless, it's again says that CIDR. CIDR here means I already talk about that, this particular terminology. The classless inter-domain routing, which means that you can go with the class or without the class. You can go with 24, which is in the class, but you can also go with the classless subnet as well, which is nothing but 25, 22, something like this, which is not in that particular class. Okay. Now, but it says that it should be either in between slash 16 to 28. Okay. So let's see tomorrow if I'm going to create this particular network 10.10.0. Let's say if I want to go with the slash 16, okay. So I can create this network. Now, when I want to create this network, immediately when I write this line, you would have into your mind that, okay, how much the uh, IP addresses I will get from this particular range. So if you want to calculate this one, go here, go here and then write this one here. And you see how much particular IP addresses you will get. So you see here 65,536 2 to the power 16. 32 minus 16 is equal to 2 to the power 16. When you calculate 2 to the power 16, this is what you will get, IP addresses. And this will be your first IP address and this will be your last IP address. Your 2 bits will move. One this one, another one, this one. Okay. Now, this is what we have already discussed about. Now, I don't want any IPv6 block tendency. Let it be default right now. Don't worry about that. Okay. And then you just go and create the VPC. So tell me one thing. Now we have been created the VPC. Okay. Will I be able to create my servers from this network? Can I create if I go to EC2? Can I use this network for my server? Yes or no, or maybe anything, whatever you are having the idea.
Yeah, right now I'm not sure actually.
Okay. So if I'm able to go to the instances, okay. See, if you want to choose the network, last time I showed you, right, how to create the instance, how to create the server, right? If I go to here and say that, okay, this is my server one, and if you leave it about this one right now, if I go beyond and go for the networking part, and if I want to edit this one, right now it is using default network. I can use my VPC as well. You see here, I created my this network. Now, whatever the IP address will I get, or I will get onto my server, will be from this range. So I can choose this one. That means I can create my server. But the problem is now it says that in this particular network, which subnet you want to go. So we have not created any subnet right now. What it says that no subject found. Either this account has no subject in this region or an invalid search has been entered. Means it's want to say that hey, you defined the CIDR, you defined the subnet for your particular VPC. Means at the broad level, you want this network, but you did not redefine this network. You did not say that this particular network would be how many particular further, how many further you want to define this network. So what I said this, how you want to take up this one right now. So if you don't create the subnets, you will not be able to create your server. That means creating a VPC will not suffice, it will not be sufficient for creating the server. For creating the server, you need to further create the subnets as well. Now, question comes from this particular range, how many subnets I can create. So that discussion we have already been done. How many subnets you can create is number of zeros, right? In your non. So if you go to calculate like this, let me go to my notepad. Sorry, not in the notepad. Let me go to my this one. Okay, do one thing. Now, for this particular calculation, it depends on you. So let's say you have been using this range. Okay, 10.0. Further, you can use any another range that's which suits you. Right now, I'm using this range. Okay. Now it says that 65,000 something, right? 65,000 something IP address you will get. Okay. Now, if this you want to utilize the 65K IP addresses, you need to create the further part of this network, which is nothing but the subnet. Okay. So how you will do that? So 8 times 1, right? Then what will come? 16 means 8 and then 8. Okay. And then 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Now, here if you see now here we don't have this particular path, so you will not get it from here. So how you can define further like this? Suppose if I want to do the further networking of it, let's say suppose tomorrow if I am using this first particular, let's say 10.0.0.0, I have to take up the small range of it. Let's say suppose I have taken 22. Okay, because if I use less beyond it, then I'm not basically dividing this network. If I'm using the further number of it, then I can further divide this particular big network into the small parts. So let's say if I'm using 22, or let's say you want to use 18 or 20, anything you can use it. Okay. So if I'm using 20, then what would be my IP address? Then how would you calculate? 32 minus 20 equals to how much it would be? 12, right? So 2 to the power 12. 2 to the power 12, how much it would be? Can anybody calculate? How much it would be 2 to the power 12? Or you can directly go here and calculate from here. That's fine for me. Sorry, I've written wrong here.
Sir, I think it will be 4096.
4096.
4096, okay? So that means 4096. So this can be your first subnet. Now, out of the 65, you have used 4096 IP addresses. Now, let's say tomorrow you think that in a particular room or in a particular, let's say, suppose for the databases, you don't have 4096 databases, you just have only 8. Then you can use further, you can further divide it, or you can use a larger number, let's say 22. In 22, how much you will get? So if you do this one, 32 minus 22, 10. So how much will come?
1024.
1024. So that means you are thinking in your mind that, okay, a particular group or server, I would go for 1000 server. Then you can choose this range, whatever suits up to you. So this one, I can call it as my subnet A. Let's say tomorrow, now what will be range of this one? So this range will start from 10.0.0.0, 10.0.0.0 to 1024, right? So how much it would be? 10.0.0.0 255, and then here how much it will come. So for that purpose, what you can do is you can go ahead and ask here 10.0.0/22. Okay. So now if you see here, what would be the final IP address? 10.0.0 3.25. So here it will come 3. Okay. So now when we have utilized this range, so basically out of 65, we have been using 102 server for a subnet A. Now, what will be the next range out of it? So how you can calculate this one? You can do one thing. You can start from 10.0.0, 10.0.0, 4.1. Okay, 0.0, 0.0.4.1, because the next bit again it will reset to the 0. 25 के बाद क्या आएगा? 0. Okay, and then this will become the 4. Okay, now this will start from here to now. How you would you write this one? How would you write this one? You can write this one 10.0.0.0/22. Now this will be written something like this: 10.0.0.0/22. Sorry, 10.04.0/22. Now, if you calculate this one, the last IP address you will get. Okay. So if you go ahead and then write this one. So last IP address you will get. So again, you will get 1024 IP address, but last will be this one. Okay. So we are going from this range to this range. You are seeing that how I'm calculating the ranges, right? So this could have called as a second subnet or subnet B. If you are sufficient with the two subnets, you can go with that. Otherwise, you can further divide this particular network into the small pieces. Right now, we have been using 1024, means rarely 2000 IP address out of 65. That means you can further more divide it this much time. So let's say if I want to use the third subnet, then what I will do is whatever my last IP address, 10.0. It's coming here 255. Again from 255, it will move to the 0. It will reset to the 0. And then this bit will move. So this bit will move, this bit will move, then it will come as a 8, right? And then 0. So now I will get this range, and then how would I call this particular range? 10.0.8.0/22. And then even if you can further divide it, if you need more servers in this subnet, you can keep it 20. That doesn't matter. Don't think that I will be stick to 22. If you think that in the third subnet, you need let's say 10,000 server, then further take it any number, but it should be more than 16 because you are dividing this network. So you cannot go less than it. You cannot do 12, 13 or something like that. You need to be keep it up beyond out of it. So you can keep it 20 or anything. But for now, our understanding, I am keeping all the subnet onto the same level. Okay. I am just keeping 1096 1024 servers for every subnet. So this is how then I will go here and see what could be my last IP address. If I add up 1024 host into it, then what last range, what last IP address I will get, that I can calculate from here. Okay. So if you see here, I'm getting 10.0.11.255. So this is how we are calculating the subnet ranges. So again, your choice. If you want me to calculate any another range, then you can give me here. I can calculate here for you, and then we can go ahead. If you understood this one, then let me know. If you don't, then let me know. I will again let you know about it. I will again discuss on this. All
Yeah,
good?
understood. Yeah, it is okay. It's good. Well, better to use this on website actually, IP address guide, right? So that's very helpful to like
Yeah.
the calculate submit.
Yeah, see, in company you need to do, or while in your job you need to do everything. Right now we are learning, that's why we are taking that much time. But when they says to do anything, you have to do immediately. You don't have to take this much time to. But this would be your understanding how you will divide the network. Now
Yes,
you
the
can't.
understanding is more important actually. Because how
uh,
the IP address guide has calculated. So okay, putting this manually, it's very much important. That's true.
yeah. So that IP address guide website will help you to understand. See, if I manually calculate, okay, how much range I will go, I will take more time. That's why I'm using this website to calculate. But I have given the idea to you how you would. So let's say tomorrow, if somebody asks me that, sir, I don't want to go with the 10 series range. I want to go with the, let's say, class C IP address. Let's say I want to go with 192, 168, 0.0. Let's say, suppose, sir, can't I create this particular network into my VPC? Let's say I'm using /16. Okay. So, or let's say not /16. Don't think about the /16. Let's say 2020. Okay. Because 16 we have already used. So, even you can use it because it's again a different class. That's not an issue. But let's take up another example. So, I'm taking this example. Let's say I'm using this CIDR range in my VPC. Okay. Now, I want to further divide this network into the subnets. So, very first thing is, let's say 192.168.0.0. Now, if I want to further divide it, first thing in your mind will come that, hey, now you can't use 20 because 20 means already this particular network. If I want to divide this network, I need to go beyond this range. So I can put anything 21, 22, 23. Let's say I'm putting 22. So can anybody tell me how many IP address I will get? Again 1024, 32 minus 22, 1024. But what will be the range? 192.168, 0.0 to something we will get. Let it be. But how would I call this one? 192.168, 0.0/22, right? So if I take up this one and if I ask this website to calculate for me, because I don't want to invest my time to do that, you can simply find out here what would be your last IP address. This would be your last IP address in this subnet. Okay. All right. Now this will be called your subnet A. So if I want to go for subnet B, from where I will start subnet B? Can anybody guide me? Anyone?
Yeah, you can take what this one 192.168.4 or 5, and we can put 22.
Yeah, 192.168.4. Because see,
3 is
255
already,
for the
yeah,
next IP address in this range. Next IP address, what will come? 255 will reset to the 0 and 3 will become the 4. Right? So 4
right.
and 2, how much it will come? That we will see. But what I will call this subnet is 192.168. 4.0 4.0/22. Now don't by heart that, or don't think that always I can use 22. That is your choice. If you want something like very small this subnet. In this subnet only you want to keep 4 server. Then keep it something like 26. So you will get very less IP addresses in this range. But this should be more. Like if it is 20, this should be more. It cannot always, it cannot go, never, it can never go beyond this 20, right? So that is the point which I want to make you understood in this part. So now you got it how we are dividing, right? How we are getting the subnets. So let's stick to our original example because we already have created this particular network. Now, if I want to get the first subnet, then what I'm doing is I'm going again here in my VPC. My VPC is created successfully, but I want to create the subnet. So I will go to the subnets. Now, if I go to the subnets, you are seeing already some subnets are available, but these subnets are associated with my default VPC. So if I want to again categorize this one, if I want to just see that which subnets are associated with my VPC, so for that purpose, I can use default subnet. So, okay, this is also, just give me what filter is that? VPC equals to 1D. What is our VPC ID? Let me check this one. So for that, I have to again go to the VPC console. And then there I will see two VPCs. Okay. How much time? 34. Okay. So if you see here, I have one my VPC which I have created, and this is a default one. You can name it from here. The default VPC, you are not getting the name, but from your side, you can name it so that it should be clear to you that, okay, you have a two VPCs. One is a default one, which has already been created. Another one, which we have created. And the ID of the default VPC is 1D. Okay. So what I'm saying that, just show me the VPC which is related to the default one. So these all VPCs are available. Okay. But tomorrow, if I want to see my subnets, then I don't have any subnets created yet. So what I'll do is I will create my subnets. Let's say now this is asking me for which VPC you want to create the subnet, means for which network we want to further divide it. So I want to say that I'm going to further divide to my own network. This is my VPC, this is my network, which I want to further divide. So it says that, okay, your CID error is this. Now, what do you want in your CID error? So I'm saying that, okay, this is my subnet first, my subnet 01. Now it says that which availability zone, means which data center you want to create this particular range. So anyone, let's say I want to go for US East 1A, I want to say that, okay, I want to go for US East 1A. Now subnet CID, okay. So you have used your 16, it's suggesting you either you can go for /20 or you can go small network, whatever you want to take up, you can take up from here. So what we decided to go with, we decided to go with /22, so we can use it /22. Okay, now, so it says that you will get 1024 IPs from this. This is also calculating for you. Earlier it was not doing, but now I think they have integrated calculator as well. So it says that 1024 IP addresses you will get out of this range. Now that's it. That is up to here, and then create subnet. Create subnet. So subnet is created. Your first subnet is created here. Okay, and this subnet is, let's close this one. Now, again, you are getting multiple subnets. You can filter out from here which particular VPC you want to go with. So I want to go with my another VPC. So for my second VPC, I only have one subnet. So this is how you can filter out, because you will get multiple subnets. Either you can name it or you can filter out which particular VPC you want to see the subnets. Now, again, I want to create another subnet, then go to the VPC and then go to the subnets. You can write it here, my subnet 2, or any name what I want to give up. Again, which range I want to go with. So what was our last IP address? We use this range already. So we have to start our second subnet 10.0.4.0. Okay. 10.0.4.0. 10.0.4.0. Now remember one thing, your subnet should not overlap. Okay. So that is one thing you need to keep in your mind. Now, if you go ahead and create subnets, so it will be create the subnet 2 for me. Okay. So subnet 1 is created, subnet 2 is created. Okay. Now two subnets are created. Now again, if I want to launch the instance, let me refresh this part because I already created my VPC and subnet into it. So if I go ahead and want to create the server, let's say I want to give it a name as server 01 or anything which you want to give up. And then let's say server type, everything, let's say it should keep whatever it has. Now, networking part. So right now I don't want to use my default network. I want to use my custom network. In that custom network, what you want to use? So subnet A or subnet B, which one you want to use? So subnet A or subnet B. So either you can use any of that. So let's say I want to use subnet B for now. Okay. So what IP address I will get? So if I create a server, I will get an IP address out of this range. That means when my server will be created, I will be getting anything from this one, from this to this. Okay. Any IP address that we will see. Now again it says that are you want to use the public IP in this or not, then either enable or disable it. So let's say I want to enable it, I want to use public IP address. And then when you create this server, what it says, okay, key pair. So key pair, let me choose any key pair, web server key pair. Which one we use? Let's say web server key pair 3. I hope I would have that launch instance. So now when you are able to create the VPC, when you are able to create the server, you would be able to launch your instance. Okay, when you are able to create the subnet, you would be able to launch your server. But still now one thing is left, which says that would you be able to log into this server? Let's say if I go to this server, which I created right now, server 01, right? I use this name server 01. If I want to, I got the public IP address on this server. If I want to go here in the putty, which I already discussed last time, okay, I put this IP address, go to SSH, go to authentication, go to credentials and browse it my key. I use key web server 3, right? Yeah, web server key pair 3. This is what I used. Now I open this one. I will not be able to connect to my IP address. I will not be able to connect to my server. Okay. If you see here, it will take up a time in the last, it will say that timeout error, something like that. Okay. So it will not, I will not be able to, that means see here, connection timeout. Okay. So that means something is wrong or something is not working. Something is wrong, something is not working. Okay. Now, what is there which is available in your default VPC and not available in your custom VPC, or what is left? So for that purpose, what I can do is I can again go to my diagram or create a diagram to make sure you understand everything. So let me remove this one. Okay. Now you created a VPC. VPC you created. Okay. This is your VPC, let's say. And in this VPC, let's say this is your VPC. In this VPC, you basically created one subnet. This is nothing but a subnet, let's say. Okay. You created basically two subnets, right? Subnet 1 and subnet 2. But for now, let's say I'm taking example of subnet 01, which I have given the name. Okay. Subnet 01. Subnet 02, right? We use subnet 02 for our EC2. And now you created a EC2 instance inside this subnet. Okay. You created EC2 instance inside this subnet. So I'm keeping this name out of this so that you can understand, okay, what exactly I want to say. So this is just a name of the subnet 02, and I created this server. Now you are logging to the server where you are sitting. You are sitting out of this AWS cloud. You are not sitting into the AWS data center, right? You are sitting your home. Let's say you are here. you are at your home, you want to log in, you want to log into this server, you want to log into this server, and then in between, internet is coming, right? Am I right or wrong? Sorry.
Yes.
Say, in between, internet is coming because your computer or my computer, I want to log into this server. My putty is where? On my system, right? My putty is on my system. And my system is connected to the internet, and then my request is going from internet to the server. So what I did is I just created the subnet, but anywhere I told this subnet that, hey, do one thing, anytime or anywhere I told this subnet that I connected this subnet to a device or anything which will take my traffic or anything will come into this subnet. No, because we never did any type of connection where any request can come to the internet to this server, because request will come to the subnet, then only the information will go to my EC2 instance, right or wrong? If my subnet will not get any connection request or anything, how my server will get and how this server will respond back? So we have missed something which is essential to create the connection. Now, when this request comes to the subnet and then goes to this server, this is what I talk about. What I said, that we have to do the routing, means we never defined that how the traffic will be coming to this subnet. We never said this about this thing, right? So for doing that, what we need to do is, we need to create here internet gateway. Either you use the default internet gateway or you create the internet gateway. So internet gateway, as I said, that it's a device actually, which basically helps you to get the traffic from your VPC to the internet or internet to the VPC. Okay. Now suppose you created the VPC. Let's create the internet gateway first. Okay. Let's keep it here. Create the internet gateway. Go to your VPC and go here, internet gateway. If you see here, you will get option where you will see the internet gateway. Okay. Now you have one internet gateway which is basically attached to your VPC. So I am going to create my internet gateway. Let's say my internet gateway. Okay. And then I can give it name like this, and then I can create internet gateway. Now creating the internet gateway, once this is created, what you can do is attach this internet gateway to my VPC which I created. Okay. So what I'm doing this right now, as per the diagram, if you go to the diagram, what I'm going to do is, now I'm associating this VPC to my internet gateway. Okay. So this is what I'm doing. Where's that? Just give me a moment. So I'm attaching my internet gateway to my VPC. Okay, such that all the traffic will go. Okay. So if you go here and then go to attach to, it says that, hey, you created internet gateway, but you did not attach it to the detaching state. You can go and attach to this VPC from this option, and it will show you that this particular VPC is not attached to any internet gateway. So I'm going to attach this one. Okay. So now this internet gateway has been attached. That means the network which we created, the VPC which we created, will now can get the connection from the internet. Okay. So I can, yeah, Greece, you have some doubts or anything?
Yeah, here I understand actually. So when the server is created and when the subnet is created, we connected the subnet to the server and we try to access from the outside from my PC via putty. So for that we creating internet gateway, that I understand. But after that, don't need to create any firewall rules that it's okay from in the AWS.
Yeah, on that only I am coming out. So even if you
Okay.
create your server after this one, you will not be able to access your server. Okay, because you attach your internet gateway to this one, but you never define that any
True, true.
subnet any subnet
So,
can go and any subnet, how this subnet particularly will send out the traffic to the internet gateway, because the internet gateway is just a device, right? So here now what you have to do is you have to go to the subnet. Sorry, let me remove this one. You have to go to the subnet and say that, hey, do one thing. Now you will route the connection. So for that you need a route table. Okay. So this is the route table. So this route table, basically what you are doing is this route table is assessing this subnet to get to the internet gateway. Okay. So now what you are doing is you are basically going here, and then you will go to the route table, and then after the route table, these are the route table which are defined for the default VPC. We will create our route table. Let's say I'm saying that my route table one. Okay. My route table one. And it says that for which VPC you want to go for. I want to go for my custom VPC, which is nothing but my VPC 01. I will get a route table. Even after getting a route table, it doesn't says that my traffic will come to the internet, because if you go to the putty again and try to log in, that doesn't mean that my route is completed. You just created the device, you just created the subnet, you just created the route table, but you never said that from this route table which route will go. So you have to go and go to the edit route table. You have to edit the route. You say that, hey, do one thing. Whatever the traffic is in my local means everything means 0.0.0 means whatever the traffic is available over to my VPC. Okay, just route this traffic to this target. And what's the target? Target is internet gateway. And it says that which internet gateway? My internet gateway. When you do this one, so save the changes. Now what will happen is that whatever the traffic is available to this subnet, now we have to do subnet association as well. So which subnet we want to associate, just take that subnet, added subnet association. So let's say right now I want to go with my subnet 02. Okay. Save this subnet association. So two things you have to do. One, you have to define the routes and subnet. Now the subnet which we created is associated to this route table. And what this route table says? This says that, hey, any data or anything which any traffic which is coming to me, I will route this traffic to this internet gateway. Okay, I will route this traffic to gateway. Now let's try to log in this particular server. So I'm again going to the VPC. I'm just defining the IP address, authentication, credentials, and then browse the private key, which was nothing but web server key pair 3. So if you do this one, so now you see I'm able to log into my server. That means my connection is now completed. My connection, how my connection is going? My connection from the user to the internet and then going to the subnet. Actually, this arrow would come here. Okay. This arrow would come here because my server is created in the subnet, right? In the subnet, when it comes, so it says that, hey, anything which is coming to a subnet will go to the route table. His route table is defined here, and anything is coming to the subnet is been diverted to the internet gateway. That's how from the internet gateway you are responding back to you, the user. So you got the connection, how it has been done. If any doubts are there, let me know. I will cover it up.
yeah, it is clear actually. So just wanted to know one more thing. So the VPC basically, for example, if I'm a uh, working in some company basically. So as VPC, we can create based on the company wise, or it is basically application wise, or how do we create VPC or even the this internet firewall? Internet firewall we have to create for each and every application, or it is one time we can one internet firewall is okay.
One internet gateway you are talking about.
Yes, yeah, internet gateway, yeah.
Actually, see, there are the two things. Very first thing is that the question comes into our mind that whether when we have already default network available, why we want to get the custom network, right? So for
Hmm.
that, the answer is like, see, some people don't want to go with the default range. Maybe they want to use another range, 10 series, or they want to go with the 192 series. So that is one reason that they don't utilize the default network. Okay. You can use it,
Mhm.
that's fine. There's no obligation on to use that. Second things come that how we will define the VPC means when you said that okay, how application labels or when there's a need to define the VPC. Basically, that depends upon how you want to create, how many environment you want. Let's say tomorrow, in your AWS cloud account, you have four environments. Let's say dev, stage, production, uh,
Yeah.
right? So you can't keep all the server or you want to segregate those environments. Then how
Mhm.
many VPC you need? You need four VPC. Now
Right, right.
again comes that how much big environment. Let's say in the dev environment, you have three types of server. You have application server, database server, or your web servers. Then you need to decide that how many subnets I will need in that particular VPC. So
Mhm.
this is I'm just creating your mindset that you having the
Mhm.
question how I will decide. So this is
Yes,
how
yes.
you decide that how much big network you want, how many VPCs you want, how many
Mhm.
subnets you want. And
Mhm.
that gateway needs to be attached or not. That depends upon whether all of your server will be logged in by you, or there are the other way of doing that that I will talk about later on. But for
Mhm.
now, if you have a big picture clear in your mind, how VPC is, how it's created, how it's being used, how we can log into the server, how connection will be created. If anybody has any doubts, just let me know. I will clear it.
Yeah, it is clear. So thank you. Just one more thing, whenever is possible, just you can show me how to create a EC2 instance. That is, I missed actually last class. So that's
That has been discussed in the last class, yeah. If you want to revise it, that's fine. If not, then we will get lots of time. So I will definitely discuss this one when it comes to the EC2 part. But if
sure,
you
sure. Okay,
want to have some understanding, you can just see the recording. You will have that idea.
okay, okay.
Any other doubt to anybody to understand this part or anything which is bothering you or anything which you don't get till now?
Sir, I have doubt regarding account creation.
Account creation. Okay, what is the doubt?
Sir, I tried to create my account, but it shows that my payment is not going to them. Means my dashboard is created, but I'm not able to use that services. They're saying your payment was declined like that.
Payment was declined. So any money was deducted from your debit card or credit card when you signed up
No,
account?
no.
So yeah, so that means they are not able to authenticate your payment method. So either what you can do is you can go to the account settings from the right hand side. If you go here, let me take a view onto that. So if you go here and you go to billing and cost management or you go to the account itself, okay, then you would see here the payment method is not verified. So if you let me see where is that account contact information, other settings, bills, payments. If you go here in the left hand side, payments, okay, and if you see here, so transactions, nothing is there. Okay, credits, bills, how it's been defining the payments. Just one moment. Let me see. Bills, payment information. Okay. Somewhere you will see payment information. So that means your payment information is not verified. That's why it's not allowing you to create the resources. Where I'll see basically getting started home. Let me see it again. Somewhere you will see the payment authentication. You will show your credit card number or multiple information related to that. Let me see it again. First allocation, billing and bills.
Sir, can I use different card which is not on my name?
Yeah, you can use it. Payment information. I think that will create a problem because it will try to, your name will, because you have used your ID as well, right? It would have asked you the PAN card or something like that at the last
Yes,
stage.
sir. PAN card, yes.
Yeah, so it will try to match your name with that card. So better to use your name or your card. Okay. So there is something wrong with your payments only, your payment method only. That's why you are not able to do this one. If you again, or do one thing, better create a new account, okay, and use your card, then you will be able to use it. That's fine. Then you will not get any problem.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, Kapil sir, how many days we can use actually this one? For 30 days only, right?
Sorry, what?
Once we create an account, once we add a credit card details, everything.
Uh-huh.
So for 30 days it is free, right? 30 days, or how is it?
No, 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 no. This particular account is actually I given you one document. In that I have mentioned. It depends upon the service. If you want to use EC2, then it's free for 750 hours for the 12 months. So account is free, means you can keep your account for any number of years till the AWS is available in this world. Means
Okay, okay.
okay, but if you want to create the resources, how you want to okay, if you want to create the resources, how you want to use them. So for that, I have given you the document. This would be given in my first class. So you would
Sure,
have
sure.
information available in that how you would use. But if you talk about the EC2, it's free for 12 months and for 750 hours.
Okay, okay, sir. Done. Thank you.
Okay. Any other doubts?
Yeah, there is one doubt regards to the internet firewall.
Uh-huh.
So since in this class, right, we created the subnets around some three subnets.
We created two subnets till now.
Yeah, two subnets we created,
Hmm.
and what is the standard actually? Is it one internet firewall is okay, or
Yeah,
for
yeah,
per
yeah.
subnet you have to create internet
No,
firewall?
no, no, no. One internet gateway. Actually, you are saying
Yes,
firewall,
sorry, sir.
not a
Internet
firewall.
gateway.
Gateway.
Yeah.
Internet gateway is attached to the VPC. It's not attached to the subnet. Very first thing.
Mm-hmm.
When we create
Mm-hmm.
the internet gateway, we attach the VPC means any number of subnets want to send the traffic to the internet, or if any traffic has to come up from the internet to that particular subnet, it can be
Mm-hmm.
used for that one particular device. You don't need to create multiple internet gateway for a subnet because it's a VPC level. When you attach to the internet gateway to the VPC, any number of subnet can access that particular device. Just you need to define the routes. Now, question comes that, sir, can we use one route table for every subnet? Now that question is wrong. You will have to use multiple route table for your multiple subnets. Okay. So if you want to, let's say suppose how you will categorize the route table. Let's say suppose one route table you define for three subnets and you say that okay, whatever the traffic comes to this particular subnet will be routed to the internet gateway. So in that case, you can use one route table. But let's say suppose you want to route one traffic to the internet gateway, another traffic to somewhere else, third traffic to net gateway. So then you will need multiple route tables. So this is how you will define the number of devices and number of route tables.
Okay,
Okay.
sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
But what we use in the industry is that um, we use route table per subnet because route table is something which depicts about that subnet, what traffic will go to that subnet, what traffic will come out. Okay. So for my understanding, we should keep it separate, but device one is sufficient. You can't attach multiple devices to the subnet, and device itself is associated to the VPC level, not to the subnet level. So that is not there, right? Now you got it, right? All right. Any other question to anybody else? Otherwise, we can close this session today. What we can do is we will start it tomorrow. So tomorrow session, we will again start from the VPC. We will see how net gateways are being defined, how network address translation is being done. But before that, what I want is at least whoever facing problem with the account, just resolve that, create a new account. If or even if you get any problem, just ping into the WhatsApp chat. The care network team will call me and we can resolve it manually via the call. Okay, that's fine for me. Another part, if you have your account available with you, then just try to do this experiment which I have did it for VPC. Okay. So until unless if you don't have a clear picture, my thought is that if I can make you the clear picture in your mind for everything, then this experiments are not just a bit level. You can immediately do it. So if you see the connections, if I taught you the connections, how the connections have been done, if you don't have understanding of this connection, then you will always having the problem within the VPC. So if you see here, I created the VPC maybe after 2 year or 3 year, but immediately I can do all the connection because I have clear picture of this connection in my mind. Okay. So that's why I'm just clearing your doubts, your basics. Okay. Once you have that has been cleared, you can easily create anything, whatever you want. Okay. So just go and again see this recording and try to create at least what are the resources we are creating. And remember, try to remove them as well because if you don't remove that, this will unnecessarily cost you. Okay. So keep it, even if you get the cost, let me know. I will make sure that how these are waived off. I know the hacks of it, so I will let you know. Don't worry about that. But don't think always that they will not always waive off the money which you have used in the AWS account. Okay, so 1 or 2 times it's fine. All right. Any other doubts anybody has, or all good? We can close this session today.
Yeah, all good, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Kapil, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So only one thing I want from your side. Everybody is getting what I'm teaching, right? Because I still have a doubt. Few people are not responding. Few people are not uh, interacting. So I doubt it. So if you think that you are not getting, just let me know. I will use another simple language to explain you. All good from your side? Everybody is getting whatever I'm teaching?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine. So we can close this session and tomorrow we can again meet up on the same time and then we will go ahead and start the VPC again. All right. Okay, then have a great day. Thank you very much for today. We will come again tomorrow.